of transitions between periods in our lives and our actions. And there's also been a bit of controversy about that, but I don't want to get into the controversy. I just want to establish something that you can sort of grab onto and start to look on at your own pace. Okay. So what I would like for you to do is let's just I don't want to do anything like stretching or anything like that, because that is going to be part of what you're going to do, or maybe a part of what you're going to do. So what you're going to do is find a space and you're going to do a move. Think of a movement or something that you do every day, and start to repeat that action. Okay. And what you're going to do is, as you repeat that action, we'll take maybe let's take 12 minutes to do it. So 4 minutes for each section. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to take that movement and you're going to first establish it. So you're going to repeat it a couple of times. So it gets into your body. And then you start thinking about what's happening in your brain and what you're thinking about when you're doing it and how you're feeling about it. Okay. Then after four minutes, you're going to repeat the same thing, but you're going to enlarge it. Okay. You're going to make it bigger. And stay with that for a little bit. Then after those 4 minutes, I think 4 minutes is long enough for you to really get into that momentum of that action. You're going to then go and shrink it. Go back to the smallest minimal movement that you can do. And still thinking about the frequency, the timing, the space, the changing your body and thoughts about doing that. And then the last the last 4 minutes, you're going to alternate between large and small. Okay, so you're going to alternate between large, transitional, and small, or small, transitional, large. Okay, so it's all going to go sort of reaching those different heights at different times. Okay, so think of an action that you do every day. Something that you might not think about, that you just do. Okay. And if Maeve can keep time on the 4 minutes, and that
just a question. You've got four different things we're doing and 4 minutes, which makes 16 minutes.
Okay, hold on. Okay, so
you may make it 3 minutes.
Yeah. So you establish your movement, find that movement, feel comfortable with it, then enlarge the movement. Thank you very much for that, Caroline. Then you enlarge it, then you shrink it, and then you alternate between those three. Okay. So it's almost like small, medium, large sort of thing, if you want to look at it in terms of sizing. Okay. Which might be a good way of doing it. So we can, and as you're doing that, think of like, be aware of what's happening, how your body's moving. What are you thinking about? What are you not thinking about? How does the change in frequency and timing and space change your body and thoughts? Okay. So find a space, and if Maeve can keep 3 minutes for each.
3 minutes. 3 minutes now?
We changed it to 3 because I just realized I had one extra that I wasn't thinking. Okay.
So how many,
all right.
How many have you got?
Okay.
How many have you got? 4, 5, 4?
4. The establishment of your movement, repeating it so it's enlarged, repeating it so it's shrunk, and then repeating it so that you're alternating between all those 3 spaces.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Maeve. Okay, so I'm not adding any music or anything like that. because that will add another dimension to the ritual or the movement that we're looking at as establishing as a ritual. Okay. Okay. So you can start when you want to. Okay. Sorry, I should say, Maeve, tell us when to start. So,
Okay. When you're in your space, when you're ready, and start now.
okay.
Move into enlarging your movement. Move into shrinking your movement. And move into alternating between your enlarged movement and your small movement. Gradually bringing your movement to a close.
Okay. Do you just want to take a couple of minutes just to write down your thoughts on that? And you can draw it, whatever you want to do. And then we'll get back to discussing what you felt and found and thought about it. Okay. So if we have 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes? Just raise your hand, just go up like that when you're finished. Then we know. That's probably the best way of doing it. Hi, is everybody done? Just raise your hand or thumbs up. Yep. Okay. Okay, so I'll just show you a bit of what I did. And this was, I think you could see it. Okay, so this was my small movement. And this was my large. And this was my basic movement right here. So I felt with my basic movement, some of the words that came up for me was take, give, reach, and that was more of an even flow. And I basically, what started me to do that movement was I was washing my hands. I was reaching for the soap and washing my hands. And then as I went into a larger movement, that became a bit more like grabbing and sort of more grabbing and also reaching, but more reaching more further out. And also, and then as I was doing that, even though it was the basic principle of washing my hands, as I was extending out, I felt like, oh, grabbing, reaching, and it was making me angry because I had to extend myself further out than I wanted to. So I had to grab, and it almost became like I was becoming selfish, like I'm grabbing it because I want it. And then the last one, making it smaller, everything was getting more contracted in. So all the actions were becoming more tiny, minimalist movements. Even my feet, when I was moving to reach, it was just stepping up, step up, step down. And I felt like I was freezing at times, like I couldn't move. And then also I felt that I was stopping. I wouldn't be able to go further. I just stopped, and then another point where I felt like I was stuck. And it also felt like I was being humble, almost to the point of like not it felt almost like a religious sort of position where I was going further down and holding. Okay, so that's how it felt for me to do that action. Does anybody want to give an example of theirs?
I'll share. So I did more writing and just self-reflecting, but my movement was sort of tending to my hair, so brushing, washing, and then putting it up. And I actually, the biggest thing that I realized was when we went to minimalize the movement, I had this image of like really big hands, even though the action was minimal. Like it was like, yeah, my hands were big and my head was really tiny, and it was just, I felt like there was this nurture, it was like more tending. And my natural movement, I wrote down tend and care, but the minimalized, it became exaggerated in that it was so much more carefully tended, even though it was a minimalized movement. And that was something that actually really surprised me. So yeah, it was really lovely to just do the movements really slow and really small. Just made my hands feel really big, and my head and my hair feel just really small and centered, and yeah.
No, good.
Yeah.
Any, yeah. Anyone else?
It's Liz. I found the big movement because I would always go for that, even when it's small. And I found the little movement I couldn't get out of. It was awful. You know, it reminded me of a time at school when I didn't feel very much myself. And then I suppose there's a habitual movement and then a small movement, which I found just interesting in that it was probably one I haven't found for years. Because I quickly go to a space where there's big movement or where there's outgoing movement, and I know how to do that, even if I'm feeling small. So that was interesting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
I can relate to what you were saying, Liz, because I had similar experience of that the small movement made me feel really anxious. My movement was swishing soap in a bowl to wash the dishes. And just this movement, you know, it was like, oh, it made me feel really anxious, reminded me of pacing and wringing my hands and being really, really anxious. Whereas the big movement was, it was such a relief when I made it really big, just a relief too. And I could take a big sigh. And the middle one, just a normal size, I found it was nice and grounding, and it brought up memories of, you know, the old days when you had the soap in the little cage and you swished it in the water. Sort of gone back to that. But yeah, so the, you know, simplicity of life then and security and happy memories of home and so on. Yeah, so that was mine.
Does anybody else have anything to say or contribute? Yep. Oh, okay, Caroline.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah, I started with the dishes and then I thought I'm going to get stressed by this, so I won't do it because I hand do my dishes. I don't have a dishwasher. So I did something I enjoy, which is hanging washing. So hanging it out, putting it down and then folding it. And also the scooping it up out of the washing machine. So I really enjoyed the big movements, and they were nice and big and slow and generous. And this, so that was kind of very much happy place. It was like a dance with using my whole body, and I really enjoyed that. And then when I went to the small movements, that was so funny. I had all these weird facial expressions because I was using very petite hand movements for all the activities. And I closed my eyes a lot. And I don't know what that was. Maybe just to focus. It changed my whole personality. So moving then between the two was kind of interesting. That was like, again, a sort of a dance. I would like to do that more because there's so many different ways to combine and change it up and do half a movement or one part of a movement and then go large to small within. So that's a bit more of a dance to explore, I think. But I was interested, this is a ritual as in a repeated movement rather than a ritual as a meaningful event. That's a question.
Okay, so I wasn't looking for something with a meaningful event. It was just a pedestrian action that you do. Because after we do this, I'll explain to you some of the breaking of stages and And what are some of some are pedestrian or secular, and some are sacred. So they're two separate
Quite different.
types of actions, that a lot of anthropologists have looked at and said, oh, and that's why there's a bit of discussion and things like that. But I really like Van Gennep's approach. And I'll get into that.
How do you spell his surname?
Oh, I'll put it in the chat.
Okay, thank you. Great.
Yep. Where's the chat? And yeah, so
Is Sophie wanting to go?
yeah, sorry, Sophie, go ahead.
All good, thanks. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to do a really short vinyasa flow. I do yoga every day. I wanted to do that. I'm struggling with a lot of things right now, so I felt like it would empower me. But when we moved on to doing the big movements, I felt like it was already big enough. Like I couldn't make it any bigger, and that got me quite frustrated. And I felt like I didn't want to go bigger. So when I went small, though, I felt like I just wanted to be close to the ground, and it just brought up a lot of tears. I'm realizing, like, through doing that, that my body does not want to move right now, and I should have just focused on breathing instead, because I found that I was really struggling to breathe, and I could feel the anxiety coming through my body. And yeah, I just feel like now is not a time to push myself. It's more of a time to come into myself and just settle and breathe. So yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Okay, good. Yeah, I was asking for all different levels. So it to me, that you're bringing up something else that's a different approach, a different looking at it. So that's I really appreciate that, Sophie. And is there anybody else left? Julie, did you say, or?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
So my movement was like I'm stretching to yawn and then just stretching my hips. I found that the normal one was a really nice release, and yeah, that one. But when I went large, it felt quite uncomfortable, bit out of my comfort zone, and I probably shouldn't have picked it because I just have some stitches along here. So I was like, oops. But when I went smaller, I felt quite restricted and contained. But it was interesting that every time I moved my arms, I would still yawn afterwards. So it was like there was that connection that you stretch your arms and then your body still yawns, even though you're like, oh, it's a smaller movement. So yeah.
That's it. That's interesting, because that means that things are connected, and what you think we leave behind, we don't always leave behind. It's still incorporated in our bodies.
Yeah.
Okay. So, thank you for sharing on that. That's really good. And we'll go on to the next one. So the reason why I did it this way is because Van Gennep wrote it in his book, Rites of Passage, and he identifies 3 stages of change. Okay, and I'm trying to see if I can get this up on share, but I don't know if I can do it. Share screen. I'll try and see if I can do it. Ah, great, I got it. Share. So at least you can see what I'm talking about. Can you see? Just let me get this over this way. Can you see?
Yep.
Okay. So Van Gennep, he talks about separation, leaving the old stage, growth, development, moving forward. And the liminal, which is transition, that's the period between states of instruction, knowledge gathering. And then incorporation, post limina, which is being accepted into a new group, status, community. So, and he also introduced the whole thing about sacred and secular profane in terms of that there are things that we do in order to move forward and reincorporate ourselves. So we can see that with children, you have, and there's different stages and different names, and there's different expectations so that you move on, so that you're infant, you're a toddler. Elizabeth could help me on this one. And then you have the school age, preschool age, school age, and then there's all these different stages that everybody goes through in order to be reincorporated into a group, a community, a society. And like his book is really interesting. I found it because he used the analogy of a house going through different doors and going through each threshold means that you're going into a different room, which is going to present you, which is going to have you see yourself differently. So like if you're in the bedroom and then you're going into the living room, you're going to have changes because each room represents a different stage in the house. Right? And then if you go into the kitchen, it's a different thing because you're already preparing for what's going to happen, or what's going to happen, and you accept it or you don't. So in other words, you'll do the dishes or you won't. So that's what he's done. And then he's also looked at it from the sacred, meaning the religious, and then the profane, which is the secular, which is what we do every day. And with religious rituals, you see that much more. Okay, so you can see that like in Catholicism, there's you go for mass, the buildings are huge, the stained glass windows, everything is going to affect you and put you in a different state. Okay. And then the whole thing of, the genuflection and the blood of Christ and the I don't know if the biscuit is a representative of the skin of Christ, or somebody could probably help me there, but that you're ingesting something that represents him. Okay, we have to say him instead of her because that's what they say. And then Glickman, he was an anthropologist, and he looked at it from magic action, which is rituals invoking supernatural forces or energies to achieve desired outcomes. And then he has religious, which is what we just talked about, religious rituals that are performed in various religious traditions to express faith and devotion. And then he's got substantive and constitutive rituals that contain cultural significance, such as initiations and graduations. And then he did factive ritual. Actions or movements imbued with special significance to alter or change an object or entity. So when I was reading that, I could see that that's to change an object. Not so much, I don't know, it's like, yeah, so you're doing a ritual to change the object that you're looking at. So it's not so much like a religious one where you have the cross and then that's that. You're looking at something that imbues with special significance to the altar to change an object or entity. And I still have to figure that one out. But the other ones like magic action, that's almost like potions, I would say. So even though it's a magic action, so it's a potion, or you might have a special symbol, or you might have rocks or things like that that will that will that will give you special powers to achieve a desired outcome. And we all have like little things like that. We might have a special rock we found, and maybe we're holding on to that because we feel that has a special energy to help us calm down or achieve something. And then the religious ones are like, let's say Christmas, you go to mass for Christmas, or there's Easter, and there's certain things that we do, especially in Italy, when they do their enactment. I think it's in Italy, or it might be also some in other countries too, where they have the image of someone as Christ, and he's carrying the cross. And also with Muslims, when they pray at a certain time of the day, and they pray in a certain direction. Okay. The substantive and constitutive rituals, that's like what we say about graduations. That's birthdays, weddings, marriages, anniversaries. Those contain cultural significance, and they are something that pull people together. They pull families together. They also pull communities together. So let's say what we just had Halloween. So that was used, that's a holiday that's used to bring, people, young people together. And then there's this thing of giving and of candy or whatever. And that comes down from something historical. And we now use it not so much as to evoke. I mean, well, I guess we can say that the reason why we dress up in costume is to evoke, fear, so that we will get something for it. So we can see, but it's fun. We don't see it as something scary, but we see it something as fun. That it's changed its mode. It's changed its emotional and it's emotional and intellectual understanding of that. So those are the two that I sort of like really like. There was a whole bunch of other things I was looking at in terms of somebody was looking, there was a Wild Frontier company where they take people out on trips and walks, and they actually did the same thing. They divided up into like 4 different divisions, and it was also about being introduced to the wilderness, learning about it, incorporating it, and then coming back out of it with more knowledge and appreciation. So there was this ritual that people would go through to reestablish themselves into nature. So yeah. So are there any questions that anybody wants to ask?
What was the book you were talking about?
I put it in the chat.
Oh,
It's called Rites of Passage. Do you see it?
Yeah, see it. Thank you.
I can't.
You can't? Oh, hang on, let me just see if I can. Everybody, let me see. To everybody. Do you
It is in the chat. Just press the chat box down the bottom, please. It's a little
Because your
dialogue
name
box.
is on the chat. So Rites of Passage by Arnold van Gennep.
Stop video participants. I seem to have lost chat.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, never mind. What is it called? Rites of Passage.
Rites of Passage by Arnold van Gennep. Now, I must say it's a fairly difficult book to get, but if you can find it, I would say it's worth the read. You don't have to read through the whole thing. You can pick and choose what you want. But I just found him, when I first read it, I found it really interesting. It made me start thinking about, okay, yeah, like you're going from one room into another, you do change, and then you can sort of broaden out about that. Glickman was the first one that I could see, and I'm sure there were other anthropologists that took this on about looking at magic and religious action. Okay. And it was just really, I find doing these conversations really interesting because it makes me have to go in more depth and really sort of, sometimes I, go, yeah, but that's all right. But yeah, I'm sorry, I keep scrolling up and down, but that's what we did. And discussion, what did you experience both physically and emotionally, which we did. And did you feel stuck at any time? How did you get out of it? How did you sort of go, okay, I have to move on. So I guess also what I wanted to impress is that when we're working with clients who get stuck, sometimes, if we look at their movement and then try to help them go, either not push them, but suggest to them that they try a different level of movement, or they try a different approach. Use your right elbow, or, just as a suggestion for them to take it or leave it or find their own to move past where they're stuck. And I just sometimes think, if we look at people who have ODC, what is it? Obsessive.
Compulsive, yeah.
Yeah. Compulsively doing the same thing. Where are they getting stuck? What is it that's preventing them to move past it, or to allow it to happen, but then be able to move past it? So, and a lot of them, I think a lot of them say that it's like a ritual, but then it becomes an obsessive ritual, which prevents them from actually moving forward. So, where is it coming from, and how can we help them? And we ourselves find that sometimes we get stuck in a habit. How much is a habit a ritual, or how much is a ritual a habit? And if we get stuck in a habit, how do we get out of it? What do we do, to get out of it? So yeah, so if there's anybody who's interested in it, I would say go for it, because it's really interesting. And if you want to contact me and ask me more questions or whatever, that's fine. You can do it through IDTIA. And yeah, so I hope you enjoyed it, because I just realized that we're over time. I really enjoyed it. I always enjoy doing these conversations because I find that I learn a lot, as well as hopefully giving out a lot. So yeah, so if there's anything else that anybody has to say, that'd be great. Or contribute what. Well, I guess that's it.
It was a lot.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay.
No, it was a new idea, although we use it all the time,
Hmm.
but we don't necessarily think about it.
Yeah, yeah. And that's why, I said do a movement that you don't think about, because, we can almost say everything we do in our life is, a ritual, you know. And I mean, we could also say we didn't get into talking about is it good or is it bad? I mean, how much of it is, we can look at it even in stages of like, if like having a cup of coffee, that's a ritual. You have it every morning or you have it in the afternoon. Who do you have it with? Where do you have it? Is it constantly always like that? We can look at that all, in more depth. So, yeah. So I really appreciate you joining in today. And hopefully we'll see you all again. And hopefully you can join us for the AGM on the 20th. Am I right, Maeve?
20th of November, we're going to do the dance at 6:30 till 7.
Yep.
If you'd like to come
And
to
that's
that, that'll be Monday evening, and then the AGM will be straight after that.
Yeah. And plus we have a special announcement, which will be really good. And yeah, so hopefully you can join us then. And once again, if you really appreciate the conversations, if you can do buy us a coffee, that'd be great. Any amount will do. And hopefully we'll see you on the 20th for Dance with Mary Claude and the AGM. And it shouldn't be too long.
Thank you.
And just a reminder, next year we're moving to Monday evenings, the first Monday of the month, starting in February.
February, yeah.
I think we're not doing December, are we, Theresa? Are we?
No, I think we're doing something we're doing something in January, I think.
Yeah, Dance and Move will start on January the 15th.
Yep.
At 7 o'clock, and that's the third Monday.
Yep.
Whatever
Monday.
15th.
Yep.
And then conversations will be on the first Monday of the month, starting in February.
Yep. Yeah. So we'll be sending you out newsletters. You should have gotten a newsletter, because I just got one from Karen. So she sent it out to everybody. So and it's chock-a-block full of information. So hopefully we'll see you in the 20th for a nice little evening of dance and AGM, dance and business. Okay. Thank you very much for joining.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.